Welcome back to the Sports Lab podcast with me and my co-host Thomas Bailey. As we got an interesting one to get into, as we got some playoff predictions for the NFL. We're going to react to the college football playoff rankings, MLB awards that have been announced so far, and the ones upcoming for the rest of the week. Then, if we have some time, we'll probably get into talking about the Sabres. And unfortunately, we won't be able to talk about basketball, but on Thursday we will probably have our second basketball segment of the season so far. But starting off, what a win by the Bills. That's what I really want to get into first is an absolute electric win, which I predicted. You did not. You went against your Bills, and it did not end in your favor. So screw you. Don't pick against the Bills. Um, yeah, that's what I like to see. Josh Allen, with in my opinion, probably his second best game of the season behind the Jaguars game. I don't really think that interception was his fault. I think it's Dawson Knox's fault. He expected Knox to run up the field. Knox decided he wanted to stop right next to a defender. Makes no sense at all. And then he also led the team down the field on two touchdown drives that he didn't get touchdowns for because James Cook, I guess you could say, vultured them with a couple of short rushing touchdowns. But either
Definitely.
way, yeah, either Josh had over 300 yards, had two touchdowns himself, including what many have coined as the play of the year so far.
It's up there.
Definitely the play of the Bills season with Josh having that 26-yard run on 4th and 2 to seal the game with a little over 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Insane play by him. When he took off, according to Next Gen Stats, he only had a 1.7% chance of scoring, and he did. This is the first time the Chiefs have allowed 28 plus points since the Super Bowl against the Eagles. That's absolutely insane. That's a year and a half worth of games that it's like 30 games where they didn't allow that, or like 25 games or whatever, that they hadn't allowed 28 plus points until now. Like, this defense has been for real, and we kind of lit them up. A great game defensively. We allowed 21 points, but we also had two turnovers, a couple of sacks, really good on third down. Our pressure was there. Terrell Bernard with the game sealing pick at the end of the game. Overall, just great team performance, especially without key contributors. Keon Coleman, Dalton Kincaid, Spencer Brown, Dwayne Carter, and Matt Milano, who are all expected to be back either for the Niners game or probably the Rams game and maybe the Lions game at latest. We should be getting very healthy going into our bye week. So it's looking really, really good for Bills fans. As I turn it over to you to give your thoughts on the game.
Dude, I can't tell you, but Josh Allen threw that Superman cape on in this football game. He really had the half of his life really in that second half. I feel like the one thing about this game that's underlying here, though, is even though the Bills won this game, they had so many damn chances to go up by two possessions. It's not even funny. We had at least three or four of them where we just couldn't seem to find our groove and couldn't seem to get that going.
No
And I
run game.
understand this is a team against Kansas City, but at the same time, like you said, no run game. And I understand Josh Allen did not get sacked in this game, which is a really big plus. However, I feel like that's not necessarily on the O-line as much as it's on Josh Allen. And I think that you can prove that with just that 26-yard touchdown run, which, again, was an amazing play. Josh Allen's just one of those quarterbacks. And apparently it's a conversation with Herbert, Mahomes, and Lamar Jackson, actually, according to Chris Collinsworth. You know, Allen's not in that conversation. So
For what's the
apparently, but
conversation?
oh, no, so, like, Herbert had, like, a 24 or 25-yard run on Sunday night, and, like, after he slid or some shit, like, Collinsworth, like, is like, oh, he's in that conversation with Mahomes and Jackson for the slipperiest players in the league, and I'm just like, you didn't even say anything
Did
about Josh Allen,
did you
and
not
it was
watch
on the
the
same
game
day
prior?
Josh Allen, literally an hour before your game started, bro, Josh Allen had the run of his life. Like, I don't know what you're talking about, but anyway.
That's crazy.
Allen had 40 passes in this game, which is just too damn many, in my opinion. I understand he had 260 yards or something like that in this game. He had the 27 completions on those 40 passes. However, here's the issue. Realistically, with Allen, you don't want to give him so many throws because there's always going to be that one throw where Josh is like, oh, I can get that one in there. And then he's going to throw it and it's going to be picked. And I'm saying it hasn't happened as much this year as it had last year, and this is a really good test for Josh Allen in this game. Was against a quality opponent in Kansas City. You have to throw 40 passes. You know, James Cook did nothing on the ground. He had 9 carries for 20 yards in this game, but he had the 2 touchdowns. And so that's the exact same thing that happened with Noah Gray on the other side. He had 2 touchdown receptions in this game, but he only caught 4 passes for like 23 yards. So the same thing happened with them. They had a touchdown vulture. We had ours. So guess it equals out in that regard. But Bass with a missed extra point too. Not a good look to start the game. I don't care too much, obviously, because we still got the win. I was definitely nervous at the end that he was going to miss the extra point that gave us a 2-score lead. I was like, please, just don't
I
fucking
actually,
miss.
one quick thing I just want to bring up on Bass is he's actually like sixth in the league in field goals made. He's middle of the pack in
Considering
like
how many
field goal
kickers are just
percentage.
ass now.
Yeah, he's middle of the pack in field goal percentage, and yeah, he's missed 4 extra points. But the one against the Chiefs, I didn't have a good angle on it, being from where I sit in the stands. I can't really see if it's a make or a miss. On that side of the field, at least, I heard a lot of people saying that it could have been made. It was over the upright, so it was hard to tell, and they couldn't review it.
Oh,
So
yeah.
maybe he made that one.
Yeah.
But all the people out there hating on Bass, I just don't get it. Yes, I understand he had a rough end of last year. He missed that kick that lost us the game against the Chiefs. We're probably going to lose that anyways because Mahomes too much time to get field goal range. Besides the point, he missed that lost us the game, and then he struggled to start the year. But these last like 4 or 5 weeks, I think he hasn't missed a field goal since the Jets game. He's missed just 2 extra points. He had a 61-yarder to win us a game. Like, he has been playing so much better, and especially as you said, so many kickers been playing so bad that he has been one of the better-ish kickers in the league. He's been average to above average, and it's just frustrating to hear all these people talk bad on him, and especially kicker is probably the number one where it's the most mental job in the game. Like, when you make it to the NFL, everyone can make every kick at some point. Obviously, some are better than others. Not everyone is as good as Brandon Aubrey. Not everyone is good as
just
Prime Justin Tucker.
consistency.
It's the consistency, which partly has to do, obviously, with technique and how good you are, but a big part of it has to do with your mental mindset. So when Bills fans are just trashing on him, all it's going to do is kill his confidence, and then he's not going to be able to make as many. We have to be uplifting and support him, especially with how good he's been playing. So then come playoff time, he gets in his groove, and when it comes down to we need a 50-yarder to tie it or a 50-yarder to win it, we can trust him to make that kick.
Exactly. I think that's the thing with, like, I view it similarly to, like, free throws in the NBA. Every single player that touches a fucking court can hit a free throw. And I know that for sure. You can all hit a free throw. However, the issue is game on the line, you're down by 2 points, you need both of the free throws to sink.
I want Iguodala.
You know? Yeah, oh, yeah, right? Yeah. Giannis in 2020.
But no, I completely agree. That is a very good analogy. I think it's very similar to free throws. It's just so obviously there's the technique. Curry is going to be a better free throw shooter than a center because he is a better shooter in general. There are definitely gaps to it, but a lot of it is 100% mental. I mean, as you brought up Giannis with his super long routine, I think he is not great at them as he overthinks it. Or the Markelle Fultz had the free throw issue where he had the wacky form. And there's definitely a lot of mental involved. So I think that's a very good analogy to compare the two. Was there anything else you wanted to say before I kind of cut you off there?
Yeah, just 2 more things on this Bills game. Finally, we got Curtis Samuel involved, and it looked like Curtis Samuel was involved in this game. Finally being able to use him, and actually instead of just having him come across in motion, like the illusion of potentially running a jet, and then just a handoff to Cook or whoever, or a stupid little bullshit screen on the opposite side from where he was running to. You know, instead of using him in like pre-snap motions and stuff like that, we actually got him involved. Got him the ball, and he did something with it. He got the touchdown, obviously. I think it was like 12 yards out. Really good play from him there. And then on top of that, the one last thing is one thing the Bills have struggled with all season long is at the beginning of the games they have struggled. This game we did not. This game, come out, get the interception off Mahomes due to the really heavy pressure on him. And then after the really great play that was for Taylor Rapp and the boys, we go right back out on offense and get a touchdown, even after the penalty that moved us back 15 yards. So really good job by the Bills to finally do something in the beginning half of this football game to really be able to get involved. And that ended up being the thing that set the tone for this game. Not only that, though, but it also ended up helping us get the win in the end because they couldn't really do the one thing that you normally can do to beat us, and that's run the ball. The only way you can really beat the Bills realistically is if you run the ball and work to the passing game throughout the game. You know, if you get into those passing situations every single play, you're not going to be able to beat the Buffalo Bills. And we wanted to come out and prove that in this game, and we definitely did, in my opinion. There's your quality win. Shove it up your ass, NFL, and all your stupid insiders. There's your quality win, and now here's mine.
Honestly, I think we have 4 quality wins in the year. The Cardinals are a quality win, and then the Dolphins with Tua are a good football team, and we beat them twice with
Oh
Tua.
yeah.
So I personally, I
I
think we
think
have
even
4
the
quality
Jets
wins
game. I think even the first. I think even the Jets game's arguably decent because the
because they still
interim
had
coach
hope for the
effect, and I
season.
think that Jets. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that Jets team is still very good.
Yeah, I agree.
So
And I mean, even if the Colts go on a run, that could be considered a quality win, even though if they do, it'll be because of Anthony Richardson, not Joe Flacco. And the Seahawks. The Seahawks are 5-5. We went to Lumen Field, one of the hardest places to play, and beat them by 21 points.
beat
And
'em.
they're a competitive team. They
Yeah,
just beat the Niners. Like they're a
yeah.
decent football team. Are they crazy good? No, but will they probably end up this 7-10 to 9-8 range? Yes. And going to a place like that and beating them by 21 when they're a decent team, I think that you could even consider that a quality win also. But I guess we already went over. I already went over a lot from the game. A couple of things I want to highlight. Very underrated is one Osiris Torrance. He had the toughest task of anyone this entire game. He had to go one on one for Chris Jones a lot of the game, and he held his own. I don't know if you saw the video on Twitter. It was like 2.5, 3 minute long of just Spence or just Osiris Torrance reps where he was going one on Chris Jones and he was winning. And he was like dominating. It wasn't like Chris Jones wasn't even sniffing Josh Allen. Like, yeah, our run game wasn't great. He didn't look great in the run game again against the Chiefs, who have 2 elite run stuffing linebackers, and they have Chris Jones. The interior offensive line struggle a little bit. I think it's more on David Edwards. I just think he's our weakest link. I think they kind of attacked that. McGovern, Torrance, they weren't the
The
greatest in the run
weakest
game.
link was
But
definitely Vandemark.
and yeah, I guess and Van Denmark. He was surrounded by not having his tackle like Spencer
Loftus
Brown said.
He kept doing that swim move, and it was
Yeah,
killing Vandemark every
yeah.
time. The one thing
And
I
but
want to highlight though with the Chris Jones thing is I do think Chris Jones is a really good pass rusher, yes, and I'll give Osiris Torrance his flowers for that, right? But here's the issue with that. Osiris Torrance, even back to his days at Florida, lost pass rushing reps to the guys with speed as opposed to the guys with power. You can't beat Osiris Torrance with power. And Chris Jones is definitely not a speed rusher. He is more so of a power rusher.
but
And
that's
that
where
just
it's
works to Osiris Torrance's
yeah.
strength. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing because it's obviously it worked really well for us. And I mean, there's a reason why we drafted him over other guys. And I still think he's a solid O lineman no matter what, no matter who he's playing against. But I do think that it helps that he went up against a power rusher, even though
Yeah.
I will give him his flowers.
Yeah, I at least with in Torres' defense is majority of the guys he faced are power rushers. There's not a lot of speed rushing defensive tackles. I mean, there are some. Eddie
Oh, yeah.
Oliver. There's a couple, but a much higher majority of your pass rusher D tackles are power guys because they're just much bigger.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
But either way, Chris Jones is Chris Jones, and the fact that he was able to really hold his own against him, I want to give a huge shout out to him. I want to give a huge shout out to AJ Epinesa. He is quietly having the best season of his career. He has 5 sacks on the season. I didn't realize that. His career high is 6.5. You do the math, he's on pace for 7.5, eight sacks this year. That blows his number out of the water of 6.5 the last 2 years. Like, and after, and it's not like, oh, this is a contract year like last year. He's trying to earn his contract. This isn't a contract year. He earned that contract where he got 2 years, 16 mil. So we have him for another year, and he's still improving every single year. He's getting better and better and better. Like he'll never be obviously this elite 15 sack guy. We don't need him to be that elite 15 sack guy. We need him to be a good run defender who can set the edge
and then in this game too.
And then he can bring some pressure when needed. And he's probably our 3rd best pass rusher, and he's doing just fine with that. If he ends the season 7, 8 sacks with good run defense and obviously his size being able to deflect passes / intercept, great job by him for 8 mil.
His
Amazing value, especially with Greg. Yeah, exactly. Greg Rousseau's the same way, except for Greg Rousseau's obviously better against the run and better rushing the passer. Even though he only has 5.5 sacks, I think he's kind of due for like positive sack regression because he gets a lot of hits and a lot of pressure. She just hasn't able to get the sacks.
Oh, yeah.
So, and then one more thing is Christian Benford. If he is not an All-Pro, I will riot. He has arguably been, comparative to his position, the best player on this team. It's between him and Josh Allen. like I actually probably second best because I think Josh Allen's been the best quarterback in football this year. So, and I don't think Benford's been the best corner.
He's
But
definitely least
Benford
at
is
the
the
very worst.
yeah, comparative to his position, Benford is the second best player on this Bills team. He has been absolutely locked down. Really, the only other person you can argue is Teron, and Teron missed like 4 weeks, so I'm going to give the edge to Benford, even though with McDuffie moving outside, I think Teron is the best slot corner in the league. I think because of the fact that Teron missed games, and missed way more games than Benford. I'm going to give the edge to Benford,
really
who's been better.
That's the name to watch out for.
Yeah, Kenny Moore is really good. I think Teron just offers more in the run game, and that's why I give the edge to Teron over Kenny Moore.
Even in the passing game,
Teron's elite in the pass game too. But the fact that he can do both versus Kenny, who's just elite in coverage, not as great against the run, is why I give the edge to Teron. But anyways, Benford had allowed 3 catches for 7 yards on 4 targets this game. He locked up D-Hop a second time. The first time was with the Titans. You'd be like, oh, it's just Will Levis. Now he has Patrick Mahomes throwing him the ball, and it didn't matter. He still clamped his ass up. Like he has been lights out this year. In my opinion, probably the second best corner in football behind Jalen Johnson. I think Jalen Johnson has been the best. He's been absolutely insane. Maybe third.
I don't know why.
Maybe third behind. Maybe third behind Pat Surtain. Actually, Benford's probably third. I'd probably go Surtain 1. Jalen Johnson 2, Benford 3, but that gets him on the All-Pro list. So,
yeah.
And also, what is the difference it makes when you have Terrell Bernard and Dorian Williams in coverage versus AJ Klein and Tyrell Dodson? You saw Travis Kelce cooked us last year because we had AJ Klein and Tyrell Dodson. Now we had Dorian Williams, who's just getting better every single week, and Terrell Bernard, who should be a Pro Bowler this year. If he didn't miss, if Bernard didn't miss as many games as he has so far this year, I would say 100% that he deserves to be an All-Pro, because when he has been on the field, he's been that good. But he's missed, I think, 3 games? He missed the Ravens game.
That sucks. He missed the Ravens and Texans games.
No, he was in the Texans game. He got that interception.
He played the Texans game.
Jags game. He missed the Jags game, half of the Dolphins game, the Ravens game, and the other Dolphins game.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he's missed 3.5 games. So just because of that, I wouldn't say he's an All-Pro. But when he's been on the field, you can make an argument that he should be an All-Pro. I think he definitely deserves to be a Pro Bowler. His presence is extremely felt on this defense. And then, obviously, Teron, and then Taylor Rapp's been – I love that signing. When we signed Taylor Rapp, I'm like, great signing. People are hating on him like, oh, he wasn't that great last year for us because he wasn't being used right. He was being used as a Micah Hyde free safety replacement. He is not a free safety. He is a strong safety. And that's exactly what he's been using him this year as, and he has been great. He's gotten a couple interceptions. He's made some quality hits. He's good in coverage. He's good against the run. All around, he's very solid. And for the money we're paying him, insanely valuable. Shout out to Bean for that. But before we ramble too much on for the Bills, we've already gone 20 minutes into them. I mean, I could talk about the Bills for hours, but we will cut it off right there as we are getting into our playoff predictions. Well, did you do like seeds and then also who you think wins it all, or just seeds? Because I also went through playoffs and who. Okay, I went through playoffs. Who I think will win?
Well,
I can go over.
We can. I can.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I don't think we'll take that long. So when we go over after we're done doing our seeding, you could just cook that up real quick while I explain my playoff bracket. I guess my updated one. But we'll go AFC first, then NFC. I'll do my 7. You do your 7.
Yeah.
So as the 1 seed, I don't care if it's biased. I'm picking the Bills. I think they end up doing it? I don't really know. I think it's really tough. But 14-3, I think the Bills do get the 1 seed. I truly only see us losing to the Lions the rest of the season due to the fact that the Niners, I thought we were going to lose to them, but we just beat the Chiefs, who have been better than the Niners this year. And coming off a bye in the McDermott era, never lost. At home Sunday night, we're probably getting back Coleman. We're probably getting back Dwayne Carter. We're getting back Matt Milano. Spencer Brown will be back. Kincaid might be back. We might be 100% fully healthy every single starter. We have not had that once this year, and we're 9-2 against a Niners team that hasn't really been that impressive. Like, I just really think we come out after the bye week and just at home, I really think we win that game. And then after that, it's the Rams. I think we match up really well against them. They're a team that it can't really run the ball that well, but can throw it. But we have obviously an elite secondary, and then defensively, we match up really well against them as a team that can throw the ball, and their secondary is not that great, and that's how you really beat this Rams defense. So I think we match up well against them. Lions, I'm going to predict the loss there, and then after that, it's Patriots, Jets, Patriots, like free wins. I don't see us losing any of those games except for maybe the Patriots if we rest our starters week 18. The years past, we always would drop dumb games, but this team doesn't seem like they're doing that this year. That's the difference, is we're not dropping those dumb games. And I thought we were going to start. I thought before the season started, we drop one or two dumb game that we should win, but we haven't so far this year. They prove that they don't play down to their opponent anymore. They show up no matter who the team is, and they're ready to play. So because of that, I have the Bills at 14-3. I also have the Chiefs at 14-3. Maybe I'm just being a little biased. Hoping they have two more losses. But besides the Giants and the Panthers, those are free wins. The rest of their schedule is quite tough. The Chargers, who have looked great lately. The Steelers, they've looked great lately. The Texans, Nico's back. This offense looks a lot better now with Nico and Joe Mixon. You never know. They could always put up a fight. And then the Broncos, who almost just beat them, took a blocked field goal. Like, those are all losable games. So maybe I'm being a little biased by saying they lose two of them, but I think they lose that Chargers game because they always every year Chiefs-Chargers is always a really good game. And the Chargers, I feel like, always seem to get one. They almost won they almost won week 4 or whatever. And that was before their offense had really figured it out. These last couple weeks, the offense has really hit its stride, and they've been cooking. They've been great. And then I think they lose to the Steelers. I really do. I think the Steelers team is different this year because they have the offense that can keep up with their elite defense, and they might have the best defense in football, and Russell Wilson is good enough to keep that offense afloat. So I think they lose 2 games, and we went on the tiebreaker. Maybe I'm being biased because I want the 1 seed, but there is a legitimate shot for us to get it. The 3 seed at 12-5, I have the Steelers winning that division. When I did the predictions, it's just kind of how it fell. And then I have the Texans winning that division at 10-7. I think they kind of stumbled down the stretch a little bit, but because of how easy their division is, they have just a bunch of gimme games left. The Titans and the Jags with Mac Jones, because T-Law's probably out for the year, just because they have no reason to play him. Then as the 5 seed, I have the Ravens at 12-5. The 6 seed, I have the Chargers at 12-5. And then the 7 seed, beating out 2 other teams in a 3-way tie, I have the Colts at 9-8. Just missing the playoffs, Broncos 9-8 and Bengals 9-8. And then I have the Dolphins coming on strong, but just a little too late, finishing 8-9. I could see them even finishing 9-8. I think they are a good team. I just think they're just a little too far behind the 8 ball to be able to make up the ground. What do you have for your AFC?
Well, we're going to start out at number 1, and I know you're going to hate it, but it's the Kansas City Chiefs.
No, that's totally fair. I
have the Chiefs finishing 15-2.
That's fair. I'm manifesting it, so that's why.
I get it. So here's the deal. Pittsburgh is a good team, and so is, I guess Denver is too. You can throw the Chargers in there if you want, and then obviously Houston. Here's the deal with the Steelers and Houston games. They already lost their game to the interconference rival Buffalo Bills, and the Chiefs showed up flat. And I think here's the thing for Kansas City that we all needed to see, and I feel like they needed it more than anybody, is they had to lose a game to realize that they were not playing as good as they can. And now the Chiefs are going to play as good as they can for the rest of the year, and they will beat those teams in Houston and in Pittsburgh. And then as for the Denver Broncos, they lose to the Broncos in Week 18 because they rest their starters because they are 15-1. Fair. That's how Denver gets my final playoff spot, which we'll get to. But on top of that, though, I also have them winning their other interdivision game because it's at home against LA. So, because they're at home for the second one, I think they win that one. The crowd's going to back them. That one's going to be a really important game to determine if they get the 1 or the 2 seed potentially. Or basically, more than anything, see if they have to play their starters in that Week 18 game, realistically,
at least as the Bills, what they have to do is try and get that. At least have it where the Chiefs don't get 2 straight bye weeks. Try and make it where they at least have to play Week 18.
Right, exactly. And so, number 2, I have the Buffalo Bills finishing 14-3, our losses to the Niners and the Lions. I think the one
that would be 13-4. We're 9-2. If we lose to the Niners and Lions,
Oh,
we'll be 13-4.
not Niners. 14-3. My bad.
Just losses to the
14-3.
Lions.
Just the loss to the Lions.
Okay.
And
So the same thing as
with
me.
just the loss, I completely I just wrote down the scores for not scores, the schedule, not the schedules, the fucking records or whatever for each of the teams, and I forgot which ones I had, and I just
I actually picked every game the rest of the season just to see how it all
yeah, that's what I did.
shaped
No,
up.
that's what I did too.
Oh, you wrote it down. You just wrote it down. I have a screenshot of my phone.
Yeah, because I can't switch between tabs or my computer will lag out. It's really annoying. But anyway,
okay.
14-3. I have the Buffalo Bills losing to the Lions. I'm really iffy on that 49ers game. I will throw that out there. It terrifies me. It really does. However, I'm going to go ahead and leave with my gut. I still am, though, because there's a 90% chance that in that game, if they lose this week to the Packers, the Niners are playing for their playoff lives in that game. And the 49ers with their backs against the wall, that's terrifying. That's terrifying.
Fair. That's fair. I just think the Bills haven't been healthy all season, and they're 9-2. Now they're finally going to be healthy. Ooh-wee.
Yeah, but again, this is one of those games where
the Bills
this could be the game where we drop against a team that's not looked great. This could be that one loss we have every season where we just lose to somebody. And anyway, I had us winning that one. Just want to throw it out there that I'm iffy on it. Third, Baltimore at 13-4. I don't have the Ravens losing another game for the rest of the season. The Ravens have looked phenomenal in any other game except for the game against Pittsburgh. Really, this season they've looked pretty solid, and that Cleveland game as well.
And the Vegas game.
And in the Vegas game. So they're three
and the Chiefs
losses.
Game.
Whatever. Yeah, right. And the Bills game. Just keep going. But either way, I don't think Baltimore loses a game. They have the Eagles, which definitely scares me. But the thing is with how that Eagles defense is played, I feel like they're more so pass defense heavy versus rush defense. They have not been able to stop the run as nearly as well these last couple weeks as they have been passing. Their pass defense has gotten so much better, and then their rush defense has gotten a little worse.
Pretty sure they have one of the.
Don't get me.
Pretty sure that the Eagles have a top 3 rush defense in football.
Oh, no, they do. I'm saying the last couple weeks they haven't looked nearly as good as they did because I believe they were 1 till a couple weeks ago. Maybe
they are still
like that.
Based on yards, looks like they're maybe 4th, 5th. I don't know.
4th,
6th.
Still though. I think that's going to be a really good game, really close.
Because it looks like the Vikings are 1, then Chiefs. Vikings, then Ravens, then Chiefs, then Steelers, then Lions, then Eagles.
Yeah, there you go. So that's what I was trying to get into here is the second half of this. The Ravens have an insane rush defense, and that Eagles offense right now lives and breathes through Saquon Barkley. And because of that, I have the Ravens winning a close one. I just think that they're going to be able to do enough to get past them in that game. On the opposite side, though, after that, I don't see them losing another game. I think they beat Pittsburgh. I think they can beat Cleveland, obviously, the next time in Week 18. So I'm not really worried about them. I think they went out the rest of the way, getting themselves a 3 seed. The 4 seed, Houston, let's move on, 11-6. The rest of that division's complete trash, aside from the Colts, who's mid. But 11-6, Houston just barely wins the division. 5 seed through 7. 12-5 Steelers, 11-6 Chargers, and then 10-7 Denver Broncos. The Broncos were 9-7, and I had them at 9-8, and I thought to myself, wait, if the Chiefs are 15-1, they're not playing their starters. And the Broncos lost off a blocked field goal to the Chiefs when they played their starters. Imagine what they'll do to them if they play their backups. I think they win that game handily. It's for their playoff lives in that situation, so I have them winning. And then, like you mentioned, I have the Colts 9-8, and then the Dolphins at 8-9. I think the Dolphins are right there, and they're scary, definitely.
What about the Bengals?
There's still a chance. Bengals are 9-8.
Oh, okay.
I have the Bengals losing one game down the stretch, and that's to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I think I have the same thing. I have them splitting with Pittsburgh.
I have them losing to Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh.
Yep, I have the exact same thing. Okay, so basically the difference is because you don't think the Chiefs have anything to play for week 17 or week 18, and that's why Denver gets in. I just think they will, and I think they beat Denver, but that makes sense.
Yeah, but I really like the Chargers as well at 11-6. They lose a couple games though. They're going to lose to the Chiefs again. They're going to lose to the Ravens on Monday night this week, in my opinion. Spoiler alert. But I do think that it'll be a close game. It'll be fun to watch because considering their brothers going at it, but I will go ahead and give them that spot. And then as for Pittsburgh, I've doubted them all season. I mentioned on my buddy's podcast that I do as well that if the Ravens lost to the Steelers, that I would start giving them the respect that they deserve, and I did indeed. I think they lose a couple more games, and that is to Baltimore, in Baltimore, and then Kansas City as well. I just can't see them beating Kansas City either. And then they lose one game to the Cincinnati Bengals.
Celtics hand the Cavs their first loss of the season. Jason Tatum, I love you. All right, continue.
Damn. Yeah, no, I'm seeing it. Oh.
Well, anyway. Okay. Yeah, we can move on. Yep. So at the 1 seed at 15-2, I have the Detroit Lions. I think they lose the final game of the season. I'm pretty sure it's against the Vikings because the same way with the Chiefs, I think they rest their starters, and the Vikings will be playing for seeding at that point. And then at the 2 seed, I have the Eagles at 14-3. I have the 3 seed as the Atlanta Falcons at 11-6. I have the 4 seed as the Niners at 11-6. The 5 seed, the Vikings at 13-4. The 6 seed, the Packers at 11-6. And then the 7 seed, I have the Commanders falling off a little bit. I just think Cliff Kingsbury's offense gets figured out and they don't play as good down the stretch. It happened every year in Arizona, plus Jaden Daniels' rib injury. The problem is the Commanders' schedule the rest of the season is extremely easy as they get to play like the Cowboys twice and a couple other crappy teams. Just missing. I really wanted to try and find a way to put the Rams in it, get the Rams in at 10-7. You know how much I like the Rams. I have them being 10-7. That apparently the Commanders have a better tiebreaker. I just don't think that the Rams sweep the Niners, and I don't think the Rams beat us. And those are their 2 losses. And I just couldn't find. I was literally trying to find where can the Commanders maybe get upset where they don't get it. And I'm like, I just can't pick these upsets. I'm gonna have to give them 10-7. And then I have the Bucs at 9-8. I could see them making it in just because their schedule the rest of the season. Let me pull. It's completely like Giants. They could go up. They could end up being 11-6. It's so bad. Giants, Panthers, Raiders, Chargers, Cowboys, Panthers, Saints. The only good team they have left. Probably not, but they could. They have the offense where they could win a shootout with how good Baker's been playing, and Mike Evans will most likely be back for that game. I think I had them. I think I had them losing like an upset. I think I'm losing to the Panthers at home just because I wanted to pick an upset. And the Panthers have been playing better. But yeah, that Bucs schedule is so. I was also just trying to find ways to get the Rams in the playoffs because I wanted them in, but I just couldn't get it there. But yeah, and then so those are basically the 2 teams. Oh, and then the Cardinals missing out also at 9-8. So I have the 2 9-8 teams and a 10-7 team just missing out. Lions, pretty self-explanatory. They're the best team in football right now, I think. The Eagles, I am insanely high in the Eagles. The only weakness on this team is their head coach, Nick Sirianni. I still don't think is that good, but Jalen Hurts is playing elite or playing very good to elite right now. He's been playing like a top 10 quarterback. Saquon Barkley is my offensive player of the year pick now. I think he's been the best running back in football, in my opinion, because he's been just as productive on the ground as Derrick Henry. He just doesn't get those 1-yard touchdowns because of the tush push, but he's been more productive through the air. And they have almost as many yards, and Saquon's played 1 less game. He has more yards from scrimmage and 1 less game, and only like 5 less touchdowns, with Jalen Hurts stealing probably like 6 or 7. If it wasn't for the tush push, Saquon would probably have more touchdowns. I just think he has been insane. AJ Brown, Devontae Smith. Yeah. Dallas Goedert. There's so many weapons in an offense. And then the real question mark going into the season was this defense. And they've been playing elite. Quinion Mitchell's been a complete stud. Darius Slay's back to his old self now that he's kind of like cornerback 2. Because I think he is not in his prime anymore where he's not a CB1. Very good CB2 though.
Yeah, I think that's what you got to do with these older corners is you got to put them at number 2 instead of number 1. Same thing how the Bills.
Yeah, same thing with the Bills. Rasul's number 2. He cooks there, and Benford's number 1. I think you put the younger guy at 1, and you.
We did it with Tre'Davious White before him too.
Exactly. Anyways, I think Cooper DeJean's been playing great in the slot. Their linebackers was kind of a weakness. Zach Bond has come out of nowhere and has been elite. The safety duo has been all right. Reed Blankenship has a couple picks. And then the defensive line, you have Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Bryce Huff. They're not like an elite defensive line, maybe elite D tackles. They don't have a great pass rush, but they have enough. And with everything else being as good as it is, the offensive coordinator and their coordinators have been looking pretty good so far this year, very promising. I just really like them rest of season. Then 3, the Atlanta Falcons. I think it's similar to the Bucks. I don't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure the Falcons schedule the rest of season. Even though they've looked awful or not. Yeah, they've looked awful these last 2 weeks, losing to the Saints, who lost the Panthers the week before, and then getting blown out by the Broncos. But they have the Chargers, then the Vikings. Those are tough games. But then after that, Raiders, Giants, Commanders, who again I don't think are that good. I think the Falcons might be a better team than them, and then Panthers. I think they get those 4 wins, and then I guess I have them beating either the Chargers or the Vikings. I think I might have had them upsetting the Vikings. I don't know why I decided to pick a Vikings upset, but I did. Actually, I'm going to switch that right now. No, screw it. I'm riding with it. They get the upset because the way you were able to beat the Vikings is by running the football, and you can make an argument Bijan has been probably the 3rd best running back in football so far this year, behind Saquon and Derrick Henry. And then the Niners at 11-6, even though they haven't been great, I'm still gonna. I think their only loss the rest of the season I actually have is to us. I think they're still gonna be very good and be very good down the stretch. I still believe in them. What?
The Lions? They play the Lions too, dude.
That's where I had the Lions' other loss. I switched this because I had the Lions at 14-3, and I'm like, I don't see them losing 2 more games. So I switched it last second. Okay, that's right. Yeah, right. So actually. Yeah, screw it. I'll have the Lions at 14-3, getting the 1 seed, whatever. And then the Niners at 11-6, just because that's what I made originally. All right. Then Vikings 13-4. Schedule is not that tough rest of season for them. They haven't. Wait, I'm pretty sure.
I don't. No, I know, but I'm saying, damn.
Yeah, they have the Bears. Then they have the Cardinals, who I'm still not completely sold on. They have the Bears twice. They have the Seahawks. Yeah, they're really. The only losable games I think they have left are the Falcons, Packers, Lions. And the Lions probably will have the 1 seed locked up by then. So they'll probably be resting their starters. So their schedule is not that tough the rest of the season. Their defense, Sam Darnold's kind of fallen back down to earth, but that defense has still been elite. Then the Packers at 11-6. They're a good team, not a great team. They're basically just good everywhere, but not great anywhere. Outside of their safety duo. Their defense has been good, not great. Their offense has been good, not great. Their coaching's good, not great. Ultimately, I think that's what they are. They're a good, not great team. 11-6 is a good, not great record. Then the Commanders at 10-7. I just think their schedule is very easy rest of season, and that's how they squeak in. What do you have?
Yeah, I have the Lions at 14-3. I think they lose 2 games on the remainder of their schedule, that being week 18 after having the 1 seed locked up. They lose to the Vikings and the 49ers game, which I thought I'd be the only one here that had them losing that game. It's just the 49ers are going to have their backs to the wall at that point. They're going to understand that the next week, that next game against the Cardinals in week 18 is for the division in that scenario. So I go ahead and give the 49ers a big win there. They know this Lions team a little bit better than other teams do, and I think they get the job done. Number 2, I have the Philadelphia Eagles at 13-4. They're 12-4 heading into the final week. They win, hoping that the Lions have some glimmer of hope, I guess. But they're going to roll into the wild card round, basically just trying to get as much possible that they can do. Basically, trying to get rid of Atlanta, who ends up as 12-5. I think Atlanta is only going to lose a couple more games this season. Yes, they haven't looked great, but at the same time, I feel like Atlanta's been due for it. I have them beating the Commanders as well. Going into the 4 seed, I have the 49ers. I think the Cardinals are right there. They're so close. They're 10-6, ready to go against San Francisco. But the 49ers, with all that momentum, take them down 10-7. And that's so sad for them because they don't even make the playoffs in this scenario because of that. However, the 49ers at 11, the Cardinals.
Oh.
I can't have them in the playoffs if they don't win the division. But 11-6, 49ers that are there. Number 5, I have the Green Bay Packers finishing 12-5 on the season. I think Green Bay is just one of those teams. I don't see them losing many games. I think the one game they do lose is to the 49ers again, who I mentioned. But I think the 49ers are just going to be – their back is up against the wall, and I know I've said this so many times, but especially this next game, because if they lose to Buffalo and Green Bay, it's almost wraps immediately. So realistically, there's a lot of wishful thinking there for the 49ers, but I think they can get that done, especially against a team in Green Bay who hasn't looked the best on the outside rushes this season. They've been one of the weirder teams on those outside runs. Don't really got a really good defensive end in Luke Van Ness for that, but will be interesting to see what they do. And they also, I believe they are 3rd right now in the league in running back receiving yards allowed. James Conner, you can thank for that. But anyway, I do think nonetheless that this is a team here that we'll see what happens. Then number 6, I have the 11-6 Washington Commanders. I think they get the 6th seed. They're just above the Vikings in my rankings. I don't know why that's how it shapes out in the record predictor thing when they both finished 11-6. Also, I don't really want to tell you this, but I want to tell you this. I have the Bears winning against the Vikings in one of the 2 games. I have them splitting. The Bears have looked a little bit better as of late. They really took it right to the end against Green Bay and lost in the same exact fashion as the Broncos did to the Chiefs. I think they win this game against the Vikings, who have just fallen apart the second half. They barely are squeaking by some of these teams that they're playing.
Actually, I think I do too. I think I have the Bears winning their home game, and then I think of the Vikings' losses being to the Bears and the Falcons, because I think they beat the Lions having it locked up, and I think they beat the Packers at home, and then I think they beat the Cardinals at home, and I think they beat the Seahawks. So I actually do have.
I have them losing to the Packers, the Bears, the Falcons, and I believe the Cardinals. Yeah, the Cardinals. I have the Cardinals beating them. The Cardinals are just the hotter football team right now, and I believe the Cardinals are going to be playing them coming in off the bye. Yeah, they will be coming in off the bye. The Cardinals will heading into that game as well, so they'll get an extra week to prepare for Sam Darnold and the Vikings.
Cardinals were on their bye,
and I think they're going to get the job done on the road, even though they haven't been that great on the road.
Cardinals were on their bye last week.
Last week?
Yeah, I have Kyler and Marv in fantasy league.
Who do the Cardinals play this week?
Who is it? Let me check. Seattle.
Oh, Seattle. Yeah. My bad. Either way, I think I'm going to stick with my pick. I think the Cardinals do get that win, and the Vikings finish 11-6 with the final wild card spot in the NFC. I'm not going to lie to you, this is not exactly what I would expect. If anything, they should be flipped. The conferences should be. Felt like the AFC was going to be that conference that had like only 11 win plus teams, and then the NFC would be the team that had that 10-win team or 9-win team, but unfortunately, that's not how it works out in this scenario. Actually, fortunately, being a Bills fan, that's actually better.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that brings us into the playoffs if you want to still do the predictions.
Yeah, I think the NFC, I feel like the AFC is more top-heavy. I think that besides the Lions, I think you can make an argument that the top 4 teams in the AFC could be the second best team in the NFC. You can make an argument. Maybe they're definitely top 3. The top 4 are all definitely top 3 in the NFC. But then it's kind of outside of the top 6. I think there's a clear top 6 right now. And the AFC, it's kind of it's kind of like every team trying not to get that 7 seed. And the NFC, it's just, I feel like they're 9 deep, because the Lions and the Bucks and the Cardinals all missing the playoffs is tough, because they're all very good teams. But yes, I will do, I guess I'll go wild card, then you can go wild card, then I'll go divisional, you can go divisional, then I'll go conference championship, Super Bowl, then you go conference championship and Super Bowl. So I have the 3-seeded Steelers taking on the 6-seeded Chargers. I have the Chargers getting the upset. The Steelers always seem to choke every year in the playoffs. Even in years they've looked good in the regular season. They have. I don't remember the last time they won a playoff game. It's been a minute. They have not been. They just can't seem to win in the playoffs. The Chargers have a very good defense like the Steelers. I think the Chargers would have beaten the Steelers earlier in the year if Herbert and Slater and Joey Bosa all didn't get injured in 5 minutes within each other. Literally, it was their entire team just decided to go to the hospital in the third quarter when they were winning. And this Chargers offense has really found its footing. J.K. Dobbins has been great. Herbert actually has weapons playing well. Quentin Johnson's looked much more promising, much better this year. Lad McConkey's been a stud as a rookie. Will Dissly's been the resurgence from him out of nowhere to become a good tight end. And obviously the run game's been what it is. I think this offense is clicking. The defense is pretty good. I think they have the recipe to get an upset. And I think Jim Harbaugh's a better coach than Mike Tomlin. I genuinely do. I like Mike Tomlin. I think he's a good coach. I think Jim Harbaugh is better.
I think I can agree.
So I think they have the better quarterback, the better coaching, and I think that's what it comes down. That's how upsets can happen in playoffs. Then I have the 2-seed Chiefs taking on the 7-seed Colts. Yeah, not betting against Mahomes in the playoffs. Next, Texans 4-seed, Ravens 5-seed. I just don't think the Texans are that great this year. I think they have a lot of weaknesses.
They lose
that
to
have
the
kind of
Ravens
been
again.
masked by. Yeah, they're going to lose to the Ravens. And then in the AFC, I have the 3 seed, or in the NFC, I have the 3-seeded Falcons, 6-seeded Packers. I have another 6 beating a 3. I think the Packers are just the better team than the Falcons. Then I have the 2-seeded Eagles taking on the 7-seeded Commanders. I have the Eagles winning that game. I already beat them once. I think they're going to beat them again. I think they're going to get the trifecta in the playoffs. I just think the Eagles, the better, more talented, more experienced team. I guess that you can give the edge to the Commanders, but in coaching, but like everywhere else, they just blow them out of the water. And then Niners 4 seed, Vikings 5. Give me the Niners. I understand the Vikings have been great, but when it comes down to it, I trust Kyle Shanahan, Brock Purdy in that offense more than I trust Sam Darnold. Like, Sam Darnold hasn't been that great. I understand that the Vikings beat the Niners earlier in the year. That was out without Christian McCaffrey. I think this offense will start getting better as Christian McCaffrey gets healthier and finds his footing. And yeah, so I have the Niners winning that. What do you have for your wild card?
Well, we're going to start in the AFC, and funny enough, we have the Buffalo Bills and the Denver Broncos. This isn't the funny one. We'll get to it in a minute. But 14-3 Bills, 10-7 Denver Broncos. Yes, Bo Nix has been great, but if you're giving me a football game between Bo Nix and Josh Allen in a playoff setting, there's no way I'm ever picking against the Bills. I'm sorry.
Especially
Bo
Josh
Nix, you're a
Allen
great. You're a great guy. You're a good leader. Sean Payton's a good coach. I think he's right up there with Sean McDermott as one of the better coaches in the league, definitely in the top half. But I have to go ahead and give Buffalo this win here. Bo Nix, good learning experience, but sayonara. Anyway, the funny part here is the 3-6 matchup, Baltimore versus LA, is happening this week. And then my 4 versus 5, 49ers Packers in the NFC is also happening this week. So fun little full circle moment going on. But anyway, Ravens and Chargers. And like you mentioned, with that Steelers game, this is how upsets happen. When you have a team like the Ravens who are always constantly struggling in the playoffs, 1. 2, you have a head coach and a team that is built for playoff football. They love to run the ball, win at the line of scrimmage, and you got a coach that just wins, dude. He doesn't lose. He just wins and wins and wins until you can't win anymore. He wins, and it gets to the offseason, and he wins in golf. I guarantee you he wins in golf somehow. He just wins in everything he does. And I'm telling you, they win this game, they find a way to get it done, and they take them out, and then they'll match up with the Chiefs in the second round. As for the Houston-Pittsburgh game, Houston hasn't looked that great. If Pittsburgh is the 6th seed, I think Baltimore could beat them. However, in this scenario, they are the 5. I have Houston losing to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh gets the job done. Houston just hasn't looked that great this year, and it's going to come down to which offense can really do more against the other's defense. And in this kind of a game, I feel like the Texans' defense is a little bit worse than the Pittsburgh Steelers' defense in regard to this game. So I have a slower paced, kind of lower scoring game, but I feel like the Pittsburgh Steelers come out on top, leaving us with Chiefs and the Chargers and Bills and Steelers. As for the NFC, the 13-4 Philadelphia Eagles will be taking on the Minnesota Vikings, and Sam Darnold's getting clapped in this game. The only thing that you can say that's good about that Vikings team is Justin Jefferson. And with the way Quinyon Mitchell's been playing, and they're going to double team him eventually with whoever they throw on him as well, whether that be Reed Blankenship or maybe Cooper DeJean, whoever, right? They're going to double team the hell out of Jettas in this game. He's not going to be open, and that's going to lead to Sam Darnold messing up, and they're going to inevitably lose this football game, despite the out-coachingness of Kevin O'Connell comparatively to Nick Sirianni. So go ahead and give me the Eagles to move on. And then for the Falcons and the Washington Commanders game, this one's really, really hard for me to decide. However, I did end up leaning with the Falcons. They beat them in the regular season. They beat them again here. I think they do just enough at the end. Jaden Daniels has looked great, and I definitely could see an upset happening here. But go ahead and give me Atlanta. The way you have beaten Atlanta all season has been running the ball, and that's something the Commanders do well with Jaden Daniels. However, I just trust Kirk Cousins in a playoff setting to beat his former team in this one. And then lastly, the Niners and Packers. I think the Niners get the job done, although I'm not confident in this one at all. I think San Francisco wins. The hot streak they'll be on to end the year, they'll be like, they all counted us out. They all thought we were done. This is where Kyle Shanahan really fully evolves in this situation. This is where he finally gets going, is in the playoff setting. We've seen this with like other coaches in the past, but with Kyle Shanahan, he's one of those coaches where as soon as it gets to a playoff setting, you got to trust him more than almost any other coach in the game.
The Niners also own the Packers. in the playoffs.
Exactly. In the playoffs specifically, too. They beat them last year in the playoffs. They beat them again this year in the playoffs. Sorry to the Green Bay Packers fans. You do finish 12-5, so you still have some good moments left for this season until you inevitably lose to your daddy. I mean, the 49ers. Anyway, that is my thoughts in this one. Detroit will take on Green Bay, Atlanta, and San Francisco, a rematch of the 2013 NFC Championship game. Fun to see what happens, but first we kick it back to you for yours.
All right, so I have obviously the Bills are the 1 seed. I have them taking on the Los Angeles Chargers. I think the Bills win that game. Ultimately, it comes down to Josh Allen at home against the Chargers. I just think Josh Allen's better. I think Josh Allen has better weapons. I think the defenses, when healthy, are pretty comparable. I'll give the edge to the Chargers in defense and coaching, but I think it's close. I think Josh Allen, I give the edge there. And then I think the offensive weaponry, I think there's a big difference between the Bills and the Chargers there. I think that's the only thing where it's like a gap. I think everything else is very close. And I think that's ultimately, and the Bills being at home, which the Bills are absolutely elite at home. I mean, we've been pretty dominant at home so far this year. We haven't lost yet. We've looked really, really good in every single one of the wins, even if it's a close win. We still find ways to win, and I just don't see that changing here. And then 2v3 or 2v5, I have the Chiefs beating the Ravens because Lamar Jackson is a playoff choker. He's statistically one of the worst quarterbacks of all time in the playoffs. This Ravens defense has not been that good. I'm not betting against Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs until he loses in the playoffs. And then moving on to the NFC, Lions, Packers. Give me the Lions because they're just the best team in football right now. And then Eagles, Niners. Give me the Eagles. I could see the Niners winning this. I almost picked them too, but I just really love this Eagles team. I think this Niners defense isn't as great as in years past. I think Saquon can have a monster game against this defense that their defensive tackles and linebackers outside of Fred Warner haven't looked all that great this year. Really, their D-line, their front seven has 2 stars, and then everyone else has been extremely underwhelming. Nick Bosa and Fred Warner are obviously complete studs. Outside of that, it's been all right. Nothing crazy. And Saquon, the way he's been playing, Jalen Hurts been playing great. And then the Eagles defense have been playing really, really good. I think Debo and Ricky Pearsall and Juwan Jennings get clamped by this Eagles secondary that's been playing really good. And I don't think McCaffrey's going to be able to get much going when Jalen Carter blows up that weak interior Niners offensive line. So ultimately, also think Jalen Hurts is better than Brock Purdy. Ultimately, I think the Eagles win that game at home. As I kick it back to you.
Yeah, we're going to start in the NFC this time just to switch it up. I don't know why I said Falcons, 49ers. They were right next to each other, but I have 1, 2, 3, 4 in this. So Lions and Niners in the divisional round. Falcons, Eagles. We'll start with Falcons, Eagles because it's going to be not a fun game to watch. The Eagles are going to blow this one away. I think Philadelphia gets the job done. They get their revenge for what happened in the regular season at the end. I just think that this Eagles team has tightened up on the defensive line. They've been able to stop the run a little bit better comparatively to what they did in week 2 at least. So Bijan's not going to have a big game. And if you're trusting Kirk Cousins in this kind of setting, you just shouldn't. This is the primetime moment where, you like that turns into, oh, shit. And so basically because of that, I'm going to go ahead and give me the Philadelphia Eagles to win this one and advance to the NFC Championship game. And as good as the 49ers have been, as much of a streak they've been on in this, their streak breaks here against the best team in football in the Detroit Lions. I've clamored for this since day 1 of the season. Lions moving on to the NFC Championship game. They get their revenge on what happened last year. Shanahan, you're a great coach. Dan Campbell is equally as good as you, though. And in this kind of a game, it's going to come down to which team has the better roster, and I believe that is the Detroit Lions. Go ahead and give me them to win this football game, especially when it comes down to in the trenches. The Lions have the better trenches than the 49ers do, especially on the offensive line. It's just not even a doubt. So give me the Lions to win this football game, meeting Lions-Eagles in the NFC Championship game. As for the AFC, we got the Chiefs taking on the Chargers. And yes, John Harbaugh just lost to his younger brother, Jim. And Jim's probably feeling it because, he beat his brother in the playoffs again.
I don't know, Jim.
But I don't know, Jim. I have to go with the Chiefs. They're not losing off a bye, nonetheless, in the first game of the playoffs. Like, they're not losing in the first game of the playoffs. I hope to God that it happens.
Yeah. Please, God, let me be wrong.
But go ahead and give me the Chargers to lose this one. I think the Chiefs are not necessarily the better football team, but they have the better coach in just a slight margin because Andy Reid's just that guy. Go ahead and give me the Chiefs to win this one. They had the better quarterback, even though I love Herbie. Herbert's a great guy, a great quarterback, but this is where their run ends. And
He's
the
not
one way you can win.
Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, gosh. The one way you can beat the Chiefs is by throwing the ball, and I feel like that they don't have the weapons in order to do that. These guys like to run the ball first, work off play action, use Herbert as a game manager, and in this kind of a game against one of the best rush defenses in the game in Kansas City, J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, whoever you have in the backfield is not doing anything in any kind of form. If James Cook can't, then I know you guys can't. No offense, just realistic. Anyway, next game, Buffalo and Pittsburgh. And this one is going to be a doozy to watch, especially after what happened when Buffalo destroyed them last year. This time it's not Mason Rudolph, though, for a playoff game. This is Russell Wilson. And don't get me wrong, Russell Wilson's a good quarterback, but they got a team in Houston at the right time where Houston just hasn't looked like themselves. Go ahead and give me the Buffalo Bills. The Bills are one of the best teams in football when healthy. They should be healthy in this game, and they will get it done. They will take this game right to the end. And don't get me wrong. Coaching, almost equal. Defenses, both very good. Offensive lines, not bad. Except for the Steelers is definitely in the lower half comparatively to ours. Here's the issue, though. You don't have Josh Allen, we do. And when you have to base a game off of all the things you have to base it off of, there's two things that matter most to me, quarterback and home field, and we have both in this game in our favor. Go ahead and give me the Buffalo Bills. KC, Buffalo, Detroit, Philly. Fun.
We have the exact same four. Well, 1v2. Wow. Very suspenseful. Wow. We really picked a lot of upsets. Very suspenseful. Yeah.
Hey, we picked the Chargers to win, goddammit. What do you want from us?
No, yeah. All right. Okay, so back to me. This is where, unfortunately, the Bills' run will end. I pray to God I am wrong. I probably, at the game, I will probably pick the Bills to win if this happens, just because I'm not picking against them. But if I'm going to look at this from an unbiased perspective, I will not bet against Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. I will not pick against Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs until he loses in the playoffs. Like, it just doesn't matter.
Right.
He just finds ways to win in the playoffs. I don't care if I'm blazing. It just happens. Like, I pray I'm wrong. Please, Josh Allen, please be the year. I'm begging you. But I just can't. I can't do it. I can't. I want to so bad. I just can't. So give me the Chiefs. And then this was my preseason Super Bowl prediction before the season started. I'm riding with it until it doesn't happen. Chiefs, Lions. Lions best team in football. Lions are winning this. Chiefs I picked as my preseason Super Bowl winner. Not again. I think the Lions are a better team, but Patrick Mahomes really is the equalizer. The Niners were the better team last year, but Patrick Mahomes is the equalizer. Give me the Chiefs to get the three-peat. Again, I'm not picking against them until they lose, till they show me they're beatable in the playoffs, which they haven't in a couple of years because, yeah. So unfortunately, this is what I picked to start the season. It's what I picked mid-season. What I'm going to pick again now, the Chiefs to beat the Lions.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go ahead and give it to the Kansas City Chiefs as well for the same reasons you have. Until they lose in the playoffs, I just can't watch I just can't see the Chiefs losing to anybody. Realistically, I think there is a slim chance that they lose to the Bills, obviously, but with the Chiefs being at home again in this game, it's going to be a very daunting task for Josh Allen to get it done. I love the Bills. I think that we're going to do a good job. I think it'll be very close. It'll come down to one or two plays like it always does against Kansas City. But it's not going to be in our favor once again. I think we lose this one. As for the opposite side, Detroit takes on Philadelphia. Philadelphia, yes, you have a good pass defense, but you are not going to be happy about this football game. One thing about the Eagles that I've noticed in this is this season for Philadelphia, the teams that beat Philly are the teams that have the most patient quarterbacks in the game, like Kirk Cousins, you know? Those kinds of teams that just have patient quarterbacks are the teams that can win these games. And Jared Goff is one of the most patient quarterbacks I've ever seen in my life. This guy is just accurate. And that's how you beat the Eagles. You just got to be accurate. When Quinyon Mitchell's locking up Amon-Ra St. Brown, you got to be able to see that tight window and find a way to hit that. And Jared Goff's one of the few quarterbacks in the league I think can. And go ahead and give me the Eagles to fall in this one. Very good game. Probably higher scoring in my opinion, but go ahead and give me the Lions. Chiefs, Super Bowl. I predicted it to start the season. I'm riding with it till I die. I'm picking the Lions to win the damn Super Bowl, baby. I picked them from day one. I'm picking them in this.
I thought you picked the Chiefs. I
Detroit
swear you
Lions.
picked the Chiefs. I swear.
I'm
I mean, I
90%
guess I'm
sure.
wrong, but I thought you picked the Chiefs. Maybe I'm wrong. No issue
I
with you
picked the
picking the Lions.
Lions.
I just thought you picked the Chiefs earlier in the year. No issue though.
The way you
All right.
beat the Chiefs is by passing the ball. They got to pass the ball, and they can pass the ball. That's
Also,
one
I think
thing
they'd
that
be
you
able.
really
I legitimately think they could run on the Chiefs. Just their offensive line and running
because they
backs are
have
that
the
good.
best offensive line in football. If there's
They have the best
anybody that
run
can
game
run
in
the
football.
Chiefs, it's the Lions. And they have the best running duo in the league right now with Gibbs and Montgomery. If
Sonic
there's
and
anybody
Knuckles.
that's going to get it done, it's going to be them. Go ahead and give me the Detroit Lions to win the damn Super Bowl. I think they're truly ready to make the step. They beat their kryptonite in the 49ers. They get past another really heavyweight in the Eagles. And now here they are taking on the Kansas City Chiefs, who are looking for their inevitable three-peat, everyone says. Everybody said the same damn thing about the Tampa Bay Lightning when they made it to the Stanley Cup final, and then they lost to Colorado. Just
That's
saying.
fair.
That's what happens.
But trust me,
and there's a
I
good
will.
chance
I will be rooting for
Hutchinson's
the
coming
Lions.
back. I think Hutchinson's
Hutchinson won't
coming
be.
back for this game, and this is
You
the
think
only
he's gonna
one
be back
out
for
of the
that
two.
game?
I think he said that he would play in the Super Bowl if he was like if he could, he would play. And if they make the Super Bowl, I think there's a slim chance he can play. Just saying that he
Okay.
could.
Okay,
if he
that's
does,
fair.
they win definitely.
I'm rooting for the Lions 100% in that scenario. It's just
Oh yeah, who isn't?
it's just Patrick
Chief
Mahomes is like, yeah. All right, moving on though, we are going to quickly talk about college football. The first thing I want to bring up though is we got that upset, baby. I called it. I wasn't just being a biased fan. I saw the writing on the wall. LSU wasn't playing good. Florida's been playing better football. DJ Lagway was back at home. We got that upset. We absolutely dominated them. Garrett Nussmeier, you suck ass. I've been saying that for a while. I don't understand why people have been saying he'll go in the first round. He is not good at all. I understand that the receivers suck there.
Better not go in
besides
like the first two.
Yeah. DJ Lagway, the future is so bright there. And I know, especially since they said now that Billy Napier will return next season, I think a big part of that has to do with DJ Lagway saying that Billy Napier is a big reason why he came to Florida, because Napier is known as like a quarterback developer. So I think if you fire Napier, then you do a good chance you lose Lagway. And if we lose Lagway, we're fucked. He kind of is that future there. But we don't really lose many people. Like, we have a couple offensive linemen projected to go day 3 in the draft, a corner projected, and a D lineman. We have a couple of guys projected day 3, but like they've been shooting up the board. So maybe there's a good chance some of them, like, because they're all like not seniors, they're all like on like juniors or whatever. They may see like, oh, this team could be really good, and they legitimately might decide to just come back for another year to raise their stock to be maybe a first or second rounder next year. So, and we have some guys that will return, obviously, like Lagway. We have a nice running back duo that's going to return, and all the money that the boosters paid. The boosters raised a lot of money at the beginning of the season because they wanted to fire Billy Napier after the bad 1-2 start. But because they're not firing him, they said all that money they raised is just going to go towards NIL. So they're about to cook in this transfer portal, hopefully, really fill out that roster. And I think next year, I legitimately think they're playoff contenders, not like championship contenders. And then I think in 2 years, they're going to be legitimate championship contenders behind the backs of DJ Lagway. But I just wanted to get that out of the way. My Gators now look like they will be bowl eligible, as all they have to do now is beat Florida State. Hopefully.
Now you said that they're going to lose.
Yeah, they do have Ole Miss this week. Probably not going to win that, but maybe the way Florida's been playing, they almost beat Georgia if
in the swamp.
Yeah.
Ooh.
If Lagway plays that game, if Lagway plays that game fully against Georgia, I think I truly think they get that upset. So they could beat Ole Miss. Ole Miss is favored by 10.5. I'm hammering Florida plus 10.5 that game. I think it stays single digits. But moving on, I just want to quickly get that out of the way. The college football playoff rankings was dropped a couple hours ago. I'll just quickly run through 1 through 25. The top 5 stay the same: Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, Indiana. Then Notre Dame moves up to 6. Then it's Bama, Miami, Ole Miss, Georgia. That runs out the top 10. Then Tennessee, Boise State, SMU, BYU, Texas A&M. That's the next 5. Then Colorado, Clemson, South Carolina, Army, Tulane, the next 5 to round out the 20. And then the last 5 would be Arizona State, Iowa State, Missouri, UNLV, and Illinois. Arizona State, Iowa State, UNLV, and Illinois are all freshly in the rankings. They were not last week, as Kansas State, Washington State, Louisville, and LSU all lost. They jump in. Missouri, despite losing and being the 23, they just stay the same because they lost to a South Carolina team that was playing really good, and they kept that game close, much closer than we expected. So the rankings, obviously, there's a little bit of controversy. The big one is SMU being ranked 13th below BYU or ahead of BYU, who's 14th, despite them both being 9-1, having similar resumes. But BYU beat SMU earlier in the season, so a lot of people are like, how do you have BYU ahead of them? How do you have SMU ahead of them, even though they have the same record, similar resumes, yet SMU lost to BYU? That just doesn't make much sense. Also, my opinion, I just think Penn State is too high. They have not beaten a single good team outside of Illinois. Is the best team they've beaten, and Illinois is 7-3, the 25 seed. And I think the only reason they're 7-3 is because every decent team they've played, they have lost to. They got blown out by Oregon. They lost to Minnesota, and then they lost to Penn State. The best team they've beaten is Nebraska. Like, Illinois is not this like dominant team either. And Penn State, that's their only decent win. Then the only other good team they played, they lost at home. I think Indiana should be ahead of them. I think Notre Dame should be ahead of them. And then Miami at 8. I think you should have Ole Miss, Georgia, and Tennessee all ahead of them because Miami has their best win is LSU. Like, they have not beaten a single. I mean, maybe. Well, I wouldn't even say Florida because Florida is 5-5, but the worst team they've lost to is Texas A&M. But Florida is also a much different team. Like, the Florida at the beginning of the season was not a good team that they dominated. The Florida team now is much better. I legitimately think if Florida and Miami played again, Florida could win that game. But I think because I think Florida's a different team now. But anyways, Miami just doesn't really have many great wins. The SEC, they're just kind of beating up on each other. They're all a bunch of 2-loss teams. I think that whole pack is better than Miami. So personally, that's, I guess, what I would change. But I don't have too much gripe with the rankings. I guess there wasn't too much shakeup other than other than BYU and Tennessee losing, and Georgia obviously beating Tennessee. Those were kind of the only big shakeups. Top 20. Shout out to Colorado, though. They're up to 16th. They're almost ahead of BYU. They've been absolutely cooking, as I think they've won, 6 in a row? I think it's 6 in a row.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, no.
They've won a lot, though.
They started out
5?
4-1. So they've won 4 in a row. Their losses are to Nebraska and Kansas State, but they are a much different team than the start of the year. Where they almost lost to North Dakota State and then got blown up by Nebraska, and it was not looking good for Colorado fans. But since then, they've been on a roll. I understand they haven't played the greatest competition, but they're just winning. Travis Hunter and Shedeur have been cooking. This offense in general has been really good. So shout out to Colorado. I actually, at this point, I think they genuinely make it into the college football playoff. I think they beat BYU. Is there in the up and up. BYU's kind of spiraling after losing to, who was it last week? After losing to Kansas last week, after barely beating Utah the week before. They had to have
and now Colorado plays Kansas too.
Yeah.
Which means that if Colorado beats Kansas, they probably shoot up over BYU potentially.
Yeah, and Kansas is 4-6 on the year. They were 3-6 going in the game, and they still beat BYU. Utah is they needed some crazy flags for them to beat Utah, and Utah's 4-6. Like, not good. They're not beating good. They have not looked good lately. So, but yeah, what are your quick thoughts before we move into MLB awards?
Yeah, I have to go with Oregon, Ohio State, Texas to stay the same. That I completely 110% agree with. However, Penn State and Indiana, I think that they both have similar resumes. They really haven't played anybody super, super good other than obviously Penn State's played Ohio State. However, until these two teams play a good team, I'm going to have them lower than Notre Dame. Notre Dame's my 4. I know that sounds crazy, but Notre Dame's right there. They've been very solid.
I Notre Dame is my 5, so that's fair.
And then number 5 is Indiana. Number 6 is Alabama. And number 7 is Penn State. Alabama beat Georgia. Georgia has beaten 2 of the other SEC teams in Texas and now Tennessee, who's the only team that Alabama lost to of like the conference with Vanderbilt or like with outside of Vanderbilt as well. But I have to go ahead and give Alabama that spot there. And then after that, what number am I on? And then Penn State's at 7. Hold on. Where's okay? So hold on a minute. Oh, it's right at the bottom of my sheet, so I gotta flip the sheet. Okay. Next up we have Georgia, and then no, sorry, we have Ole Miss, Georgia, Tennessee, Miami, and then Boise State is my 12.
Yep. All right. That's fair. I completely agree with that. Hopefully Boise State just keeps cooking. Shout out to Ashton Genty with another 160 yards
Well,
and 3 touchdowns.
it
Is
was looking weird though at first against
Yeah,
San
I put
Jose
that
State
game
of
on.
Oakland.
I put that game on just so I could Ashton Genty watch, and I'm just like, give it to Genty every play. Just give it, give it, give it. And they did. He cooked. And it was fabulous.
Yeah.
After I was Georgia hate watching, and unfortunately
MLB.
they won that game, and that touchdown lost me money because I had like Tennessee plus 9.5. I had like an over and like a couple of things that just didn't end up hitting because of that. Or no, I had Georgia under. I had Georgia under 28.5 points, and then I had Tennessee plus 9.5 in the bet. So even if they kicked a field goal and then Tennessee got garbage points there, but if they just didn't get a touchdown at all in that final drive, then it would have been 24-17 and my bet would have hit. But whatever.
Right.
I was just hate watching because I hate Georgia. They're my least favorite team in the country. Fuck Georgia. Carson Beck, you suck.
They just keep winning, and Carson Beck
Yeah.
does suck on the road.
Carson Beck sucked. He was at home and actually he did play good, but he still sucks. I like hate watching Carson Beck. He sucks. All right. Moving on though. MLB awards this week. Last night, the Rookie of the Year was announced as Luis Gil won a tight race over Colton Cowser in the AL to win the AL Rookie of the Year. Shout out to my boy Luis Gil of the Yankees. Glad to see him win that. I think it was deserved. And then in the NL, Paul Skeens kind of more so ran away with it over Jackson Merrill, got 23 of the first place votes, and Merrill getting 7. And then Skeens got 7 in the second, Merrill got 23. It was basically just them 2-1-2, and then Churio was locked in at 3. I think Skeens totally deserved it. Anyone who thinks Merrill deserved it, I think that's kind of crazy. Skeens was legit a historically good season. He had a sub-2 ERA as a rookie. He was a Cy Young finalist. Like, I understand he didn't play every day because he's a pitcher, only played every 5th game, and he didn't called up until like June or whatever, yada yada yada. But when he came up, he was just lights out. And Merrill was very good. He had a great season. Merrill would have won it in the AL. Like Merrill or Churio both probably would have won in the AL. The AL Rookie of the Year was kind of weak, but they weren't, so they didn't win it. Like, I get it. Merrill was very clutch. He had a very good rookie season. He played every day. He was on a very good team, unlike Skeens, who was on a bad Pirates team. I get that, but like a sub-2 ERA as a rookie, like, yeah, that's how you're not beating that. And then tonight, I actually didn't see you the Manager of the Year, so if you want to give me those, I know you were already upset about the NL. Who won the AL one?
The AL, I'm not sure. Oh, it was hold on a minute, I'll look it up real quick.
Was it Stephen Vogt?
Yes, him.
Okay, yep, that's who I expected to win.
Cleveland, right?
I get the argument why the Royals or Tigers guy could have won it because the big turnarounds they had this season. But Vogt went from a 70-win team to losing Shane Bieber in the first week of the season to Tommy John, or first 2 weeks, your ace pitcher, to having 94 wins, a second seed, and winning your division. Like, shout out to him for that. I think Vogt definitely deserved it. But then in the NL, you told me earlier, I completely agree why you are mad, as the Brewers manager won it over Chris Mendoza of the Mets. Personally, earlier on the radio, I said I thought Vogt should have won it for the Guardians for the AL, and I thought Mendoza should have won it for the Mets for the NL. So I get your frustration as a Mets fan. I totally agree. I think Mendoza should have won it, but I'll let you get into that. You want to explain it?
Yeah, I mean, the turnaround from 0-5, from being complete garbage halfway through the season, just the turnaround that this guy gave us. Carlos Mendoza has just been phenomenal, and they still find a way to give it to the Brewers. I feel like the one thing is that I can see the light at the end of the tunnel for is that the Brewers were a model of consistency this year. They really genuinely didn't have a bad stretch this season, and that's saying a lot about the team that Milwaukee has. And that's saying a hell of a lot about their manager as well. However, Mendoza, the turnaround to be able to make this team a playoff team out of nowhere. And I get it, there's nothing to do with the playoffs, but we literally beat them in the playoffs. So if anything, man, we showed that they made the wrong choice tonight. So unfortunately, Mendoza doesn't win, but I do think that nonetheless, I can see why they went with the Brewers guy. realistically, they had a great season. Didn't really have a stretch where they played super, super poorly at all. Very good, consistent team. As for Vogt, same thing, really. Another one of those consistent managers. Played in a very competitive AL Central as well with two of those guys. Um, Basically, it was just interesting to see what was going to happen and stuff. And basically, more than anything, I guess, really being against the Tigers and the Royals, finding a way to get past that and still win this division. I think that's why they give it to him over the other two teams, because they finished a little higher in the standings than them, and it's very well deserved. As for the guys for the Rookie of the Years, yes, Luis Gil was not that great, but he's the 10th Yankee to win this. 171 strikeouts over the
A
course of the season over his
a
29.
3.5 ERA is pretty good.
Yeah, it's not super bad. It's still okay. 171 strikeouts, 15 wins too. He won 15 of his 29 starts. So to be able to say that as a young guy, he's definitely doing enough.
Yeah, it wasn't like a crazy Paul Skeens lights out season, but I mean, as a rookie, I thought it was. He battled through some injuries, and I obviously to start the year he was absolutely on fire, and then kind of cooled off. But like I thought it was deserved, because I just thought he was a better pitcher than Kowser was a hitter. Or Kowser was as a baseball player, so like maybe it's a little bit biased, but whatever. I'm just happy to see my boy Gil.
Yeah, and then the 1.96 ERA for Skeens, like, dude, that's just disgusting. 170 strikeouts. So to put it into perspective for all of you that don't care about baseball, Paul Skeens had one less strikeout than Luis Gil, and he was called up in June.
Yeah,
the
Paul
other
Skeens
guy
is on a generational
who won the
run
other
right
award. The other guy who won the other award had one more strikeout than him and played an entire 2 months more. That's insane. That's just insane to think about. I understand Merrill's a great guy, great team, but man, Paul Skeens, he was the single reason why the Pirates were not complete ass this year. And to say that as a rookie, how great he played, the historic season he had, I have to go ahead and give Paul Skeens his flowers for this season. Great year. Looking forward to seeing him in the future. The stash, man. Oh, hell yeah. Just rock it. Keep going.
Love that, man.
Either way, though.
Yes, the power of the stash, baby.
Paul Skeens is a big guy. Yeah. How about the Hank Aaron and stuff? Are we talking about those?
Paul Skeens is just on a generational run over this last year and a half. Wins a College World Series, wins College World Series MVP, gets drafted number 1, is dating Livy Dunn, gets called up 10 months after getting drafted, like one of the quickest ever. Has a 1.96
the best baseball player I've ever seen swing the bat.
Yes. Yeah, Livy, yes.
She sees those balls better than anybody.
She's the only one. She's the only one. Livy Dunn, the only one who could actually hit Paul Skeens' balls.
Yeah, I know. She's the only one that gets to make contact.
Yeah. Yeah, Livy Dunn's the only one who can make contact on Paul Skeens.
Under 2 ERA.
Then Paul Skeens sub 2 ERA.
In the sheet. This is so bad.
NL Cy Young finalist, Rookie of the Year, just generational run by Paul Skeens right now. I wish I was that man. Wish I could kiss that man, if we're being honest. Moving on. We'll get in a little bit Sabres talk before we end this podcast, as we didn't get into them on Thursday's episode. We did touch up on them on Tuesday, but the Sabres, they sure were the Sabres. Just like when you think the Sabres are back, they go and have that stinker against Philadelphia. And Devin Levi, just what has happened? Like, I really hope you can turn things around in the AHL for the end of the season when we're making a playoff push. Because when Devin Levi's on, he's definitely better than James Reimer. So hopefully during the season, Devin Levi can kind of play in the AHL, get in his groove, and then maybe in March we call him back up, and then we can hopefully have a 1A, 1B with Luukkonen while making that playoff push. We don't have to ride Luukkonen so hard where he falls off like last year. So hopefully that can happen, because I get it. Against the Flyers, our defense was absolutely brutal. Not all of the goals were on him, and he did end up having 27 saves on 31 shots. Isn't awful. He did kind of turn around the game, but and still, I don't know the last game he had where he had a sub 900 save percentage. Every game's in the 8. He's averaging an 880, which 890, which I don't care how bad your defense is. If you're a good goalie, you're going to be better than that. Luukkonen has the same defense and has a much better save percentage. I don't know what it is. Hopefully he can figure it out in the AHL. But shout out to Ryan McLeod, man. I mean, he won us that St. Louis Blues game, or at least helped us
Another
win that
goal.
St. Louis Blues game with the goal. Absolute beauty, top shelf. And then that pass that he
Oh,
had
hell
to
yeah.
talk. Oh, what a pass that was. Back going over the net. And then as soon as he, just perfect timing, as soon as he sees that goalie turn, he reaches his stick out so he can pass it to Tuch, who buries that home. Just absolutely beautiful. And then absolutely big brain by the Sabres to take that penalty into overtime. For
Oh,
those
hell
who don't
yeah.
understand, in the Blues game, there was a delayed penalty as the Blues player ran over
For ramming
Devin
into our
Levi.
goalie.
Yeah, basically, yeah. So they're in hockey, they don't call penalties right away. It's a delayed penalty until the team makes possession with the puck, the opposing team, like the team that committed the penalty. So what the Sabres did is the final minute of the game, they just passed the puck around, let that minute go out because it was 3-3. So then they go to overtime. One, they lock in the point, and two, now they have the full 2 minutes of power play in overtime where it's a 4-on-3, which is much easier to score than a 6-on-5 because it's just less players on the ice. There's more openings. And it worked out perfectly because if we would have just taken that penalty right away, we would have never had that power play because we would have only had like a minute and like 5 seconds, a minute and 10 seconds of the power play in overtime. And we only scored with 30 seconds left in the power play with an absolute beautiful one-timer by Dahlin to bury it home. 4-3, great win against the Blues. It's just unfortunate we followed it up with that stinker against the Flyers. That's a game we got to win if we want to be a contender. Like, they're not supposed to be a great team, and even if they are a good team, that's a team we're battling. We need to win that game. They do have a West Coast trip coming up where these are all winnable games before we have a tougher stretch against the Wild and Canucks Thanksgiving week. But we have the Kings, who we almost beat earlier in the year. We outplayed them, just couldn't put the puck away. I think we're a better team. Then we
Sharks
have,
and
in my
Ducks.
opinion, two of the three worst teams in the league, in the Ducks and the Sharks. Like, those are both games. I think on this West Coast trip, we need at least 5 points. If we have less than 5 points, well, if we have less than 4 points, I'll be disappointed. 4 is the floor, but I'm expecting us to get 5 or 6 points on this trip. We need to have a good showing. We usually do out west, so hopefully we can continue with that. Tage should be back. UPL is officially back as Levi was sent down to Rochester. James Reiner is now the backup. Jordan Greenway is still out as we called up Yuri Kulich and Isaac Rosen. They did change up the lines a little bit. Finally, Lindy Ruff has listened and has separated Jack Quinn and Dylan Cousins as the first line stays the same with Thompson. Then the second line is Cousins, Benson, Kulich. The third line is McLeod, Zucker, Quinn. And the fourth line is Krebs, Malenstein, Abe, Kubel. And then the scratches are Lafferty and Rosen, most likely. Things may move around based on who's playing and who's not playing. The defense pairings stay the same. Byram Dahlin, Power Bryson, Gilbert Yokihari. Personally, I would rather have Clifton and over Yokihari, but that's not that important. As I turn it over to you to give your thoughts about recent Sabres play and upcoming play.
Well, I mean, we had 2 games against 2 very mid teams in the Flyers and the Blues. 2 teams that were like right there with us, around the same record, right there in the middle of the NHL. Back half, I guess, so 20 to 30 range. But basically, the first game, the overtime game, genius move to score. Not to score, yeah, of course, obviously genius move. But anyway,
yeah.
genius move to
big
just
brain. We scored the
till
puck. We put the puck in the net
genius
and
move
it
to.
won. Oh my god!
He's like, oh my god, I've never seen anybody actually do that before.
Yeah, I'm a Sabres fan.
And
I
you
don't
did
know
it
what
without
that's
your
like.
foot in the crease.
That was
You
a
did it
terrible
without your
call.
foot in the crease.
That was a terrible
Yeah,
goalie
yeah.
interference on Benson. The defender pushed him into the goalie as the goalie came up. Basically, the goalie and the defender sandwiched Benson, and then they blamed Benson. What? Continue. I just wanted to bring that up. You brought that to my attention.
Either way, we win the game. Yeah, just interesting situation there. Obviously, the McLeod pass, that was my favorite goal of the season so far. It's got to be. It's right there. Obviously, the snipe as well. On top of that, Benson had the goal after, he still had the other goal that he scores in this game. Dowling with the overtime from the pass from Paterka. Beautiful pass, beautiful shot, winning us the game in overtime. Great game. Honestly, one thing that really seemed weird about this game was realistically, we just couldn't seem to do much in that middle period at first. Realistically, that middle period is starting to become one of our worst. Obviously, we gave up 2 goals in the middle period to the to the Blues, and we didn't score a single one in this game. So we were
We
getting
had like 2
dominated.
shots in the second period too.
Yeah, exactly. We had like nothing going for us. They had a 3-2 lead, but the boys battled back. They got the adversity. They really just fought through it for the entire game. And to be able to get through that no goal situation too, even though it wasn't obviously the correct call in our opinions, still to be able to fight through that and win that game is really crucial for them. And then on top of that, the Flyers game, I understand that we lose to the Flyers and it's a dumb game, but at the same time, the Flyers have always had our number. I was expecting a loss coming into this game. Anything other than that would have been a decent surprise to me. And we got shellacked in this hockey game.
At least
Flyers,
we got close.
2-0. 2-0 in the first period. 4-0 after 2 periods. We were getting destroyed. The only period you can really say anything good about is the third period. We really battled back and worked hard in that third period. Just didn't. It was too little, too late.
Yeah.
Dahlin gets another goal in this game. McLeod gets another goal in the game. Dahlin with the assist as well. He had the 2 points. However, nonetheless, it's a tough loss. And you're on the road in Philadelphia. You can't really afford to lose that one. Coming up now, we got that West Coast trip. I do think that we lose to the Kings more than likely, especially considering on the road we're normally worse against the Kings. We own them at KeyBank Center. Let's just be clear.
Yeah.
Like we
7-0 last time.
We own them. Yeah, I know. I went there. I was at that
3,
game.
4. Yeah, me too. 1, 2, 3.
We want
4.
more.
We want 4. We want more. We want 5. Yeah, that was so much fun after every goal.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
I love
was
that.
at that game. Great
drunk
game.
guy screaming. Anyway, though, moving into those games, I think that we'll probably lose to the Kings. They own us at their place. We own them at ours. I don't think they necessarily own us, I wouldn't say, but I think they get the job done there, especially with the inconsistencies in the lineup still. I don't think Thompson will be back for that game. Should come back for the Ducks game, though.
I thought they made it seem like he's leaning towards playing.
I think he misses one more. I think he travels.
Well, yeah. Well,
I hope he does. If he plays, then I think we could win that game.
They're leaning towards him playing, though. All signs point that he is going to play. But it's definitely not a guarantee, so they may
that'd
just
be interesting. I hope so.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, same with the Ducks and the
He would have
Sharks
played
game.
in the Flyers
I
game.
think Thompson will be back. He's definitely playing.
Sorry for cutting you off, but they said that if it was a playoff game,
Ducks,
he would have played in the Flyers game. So, I feel like he's going to be back for the Kings game, but that's just my opinion.
Right. Yeah, definitely. But basically here, though, I think that the Ducks and Sharks games, those are must-win games. You should have Thompson back by then. He better be back by then. But you're playing 2 of the worst teams in the league as well. You got to win those games. I understand they're on the road, but it's the Sharks and the Ducks, dude. We can manage, right? Hopefully. Anyway, I'm definitely expecting the Sabres to lose all 3 of these games before next time we talk, and just me being a complete depressed Sabres fan at the point in the season we're at. But these are games we got to win if we want to be a playoff contender, and I think that this next week's going to be very telling for us, so there's that as well. Looking forward to seeing what Peterka continues to do. He's looked great. McLeod's looking good. Dahlin, those are the 2 guys on point streaks. I think that it'll be interesting to see what we do down the stretch. Tuch's looked like a great leader. Interesting to see what they do with the lines. Obviously moving Quinn, but we'll see what happens moving forward.
Shout out, though, as two Sabres are tied for 4th in the league in points right now. Jack Eichel and Sam Reinhart are both tied for 4th with 28 points. Being a Sabres fan is depressing. Being a Sabres fan is depressing. Yes. At least, you can look at it. The O'Reilly trade, we got Thompson. And then the Eichel trade, we got Tuch and we got Krebs. All of them are quality players in this team. But then that Reinhart
I don't
trade
think Krebs is much, but Krebs is still okay.
He's a good bottom 6, 3rd, 4th center. I think he's got value, trade value definitely. I think he's still
exactly. I think the thing with him is he's got to be on the 3rd line.
Eichel requested a trade, so the fact that we were able to even get back that value, I think, is good value. Because Tuch's like a 70-ish point, good defender, good leader type player. Obviously, he's no Eichel, but I think it's good value for those 2 trades. But that Reinhart trade is just looking so bad. Literally every game, it's just looking weird. When we first made the trade, it's and then through
we got Levi.
Levi looked really good at Northwestern or Northeastern or whatever the fuck he was playing. Yuri Kulich is tearing it up in the AHL. Maybe we got really good prospects for a guy who's a 60, 70-point guy. Maybe we won this trade. And then last year, Kulich doesn't make it up in the roster at AHL, and Levi takes a step back. And then Reinhart has over 100 points and wins a cup, and it's oh, crap, maybe we didn't. And then this year, Levi looks like one of the worst goalies in hockey. Kulich is still struggling to make the roster, and Reinhart's continuing it again after he got paid. It wasn't just a contract year thing. It's like, oh God, the pain and the misery of being a Sabres fan. Imagine this team. Basically, you just take off Tuck and you take off Thompson. No, you keep Thompson actually because say we make the O'Reilly trade. You basically just take off Tuck and then you add Eichel and Reinhart.
Oh.
You do the first line is Eichel, Reinhart, and Thompson, or Eichel, Reinhart, Peterka, and then like Thompson, Cousins, and like maybe
McLeod,
Benson, and then McLeod, and then you do McLeod, Zucker, and Greenway.
Oh, bro, trade Jack Quinn and get Rasmus Anderson. Oh, stop!
This team would be
I'm
good.
gonna cry.
I know we would probably be like a top 5 team of the league.
We wouldn't want to shoot ourselves.
At least we have that man, Josh Allen. I actually want a Josh Allen signed helmet. I think I told
At least
you
we have a
that, right?
sports team.
Yeah.
Yep, you did.
I'm the meat muncher.
Okay.
All right. With that, that is it for our episode. On Friday's episode, we will do our weekly game picks. Quick shout out. I am catching up on Thomas. He did not have a great week. I went 3-1 against him last week in our picks. That's what you get for picking against the Bills.
No, we don't talk about this.
But you're still beating me series, but I am closing the gap. I'm making it a tight race. Yes. So we'll do our weekly game picks. We'll do our college football picks of the important games, like Ohio State, Indiana is the big one we will key in on. And then we'll get into basketball, and we will react to the rest of the awards, as I think it's Cy Young tomorrow and MVP on Thursday or Friday. So we react to those awards. Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're pretty self-explanatory. We all know who's going to win those, but we'll still react to them as they come out. So we will react to that. Weekly picks for college football, weekly picks for NFL, and then react to what has happened so far in the NBA season, as we have not really gotten into that. And there are some big storylines to talk about. But I hope you guys all have a great day. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, share, as we are trying to grow this. That's all we got for you guys today.